All right, this is Unit 7. This is to come after the trait perspective. It's kind of an optional lecture. If you would, this is your opportunity to take a personality test, see where your personality rates with the rest of the population. Remember, I said a unique personality isn't necessarily that advantageous, and it's not necessarily a good thing versus a common personality being a bad thing. Remember, common personality, easier to understand other people. Unique personality sometimes keeps us a little bit not understanding others, if you would. So here's what I need you to do on your phone, tablet, computer, if you're looking as well. Go to the App Store, search Myers-Briggs, click on Personality Quiz Assessment. You can also go to Google, Myers-Briggs, or simply go to 16personalities.com. When you do that, again, if you download the app, I think I have it right here, which I don't. You'll have a little personalities test that'll come out. Just take the little test. So go through it, take the test, and get out a sheet of paper. And on that sheet of paper, write it down, a little note. You'll have four letters that it will come up with. Do one test for yourself, take it more than once, see if there's any changes, take it on another day, whatever the case may be. Do one of the tests as if it was for a friend of yours and see if your perception of your friend is the same as your perceptions or the perception of your friend of themselves. You do a test for a family member, however you want. So what you do right now is you go ahead and you pause this video on this screen, go ahead and do the personality test. And then once you've completed the personality test and you've got your four letters, go ahead and continue. So at this moment, pause here, do your personality test. Okay, now we're going to assume that your personality test is done, and we're going to take a look at what those four letters mean. You should have four letters you picked, give you a code like ENTJ. Use this code to help find which Simpsons character you are like. Not only will we look at the Simpsons character you're like, but other pop culture characters as well, including which Grey's Anatomy character, which character from Phineas and Ferb, which character from Finding Nemo. There's a bunch of them. The Office, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. There's a bunch of them on here. So we'll take a look at which character you're most likely like, but what's more important is to find out what these four letters mean in the Myers-Briggs test. You're going to get either an E or an N. E for extroverted, I for introverted, an S or an N, S for sensing, N for intuition. You'll get a T or an F, the T for thinking, the F for feeling, and then you will get a J or a P, J for judging or P for perceiving, which will give you one of 16 personality types. Now again, what does the E mean versus the I? The E means that you're more extroverted, you're more outgoing, and 65% of the 65.5% of the U.S. population falls under extroverted. Very active, very outward, people, expressive interaction. You speak before you think, and you just sort of you want to deal with people, you want to deal with situations. Yet 34.5% of us would get the I, which is introverted, which is a little bit more reflective, inward, private, contained, concentration, time to speak. Now, again, what's also important is that you'll notice your letters are not absolute E's or absolute I's. You could be majority E, majority I, or kind of in the middle of it there as well. So there's different degrees of personality, just like there's different degrees of vision and everything else. But your first letter should be an E or an I. Are you extroverted or are you introverted? Now, again, remember, extroverted, outgoing doesn't necessarily mean that you're more of a people person, anything. It doesn't mean that you have a lack of shyness. You could be shy and very extroverted, whereas you get over your shyness by being extroverted. And you can be very confident and introverted at the same time. Just because you're introverted doesn't necessarily mean that you're that shy. You just may not want to deal with other people. The next letter that you will get is an S or an N. The S is a more sensing person. You like to deal with the facts, proven procedures, what you know. You're a realist, what's in the here and the now, versus an N where you prefer to deal with ideas, look into the unknown, what are the possibilities, anticipation. So sensing is based on sort of what's going on in this particular time, versus N, which is intuition, which is let's try new things based on what I know. So again, a little bit more imaginative, random, and subtle over there. Again, 3/4 of the population will come up with a score that is an S, and about A fourth of the population will come up with a score that is an N. Then if you get to the T or the F, are you a thinking person or a feeling person? A thinking person is very analytical, want the details, practical, let's live in the now, versus a feeling person is going to be a little bit more subjective. It depends on the situation. Think with your heart a little bit more empathetic and seeing things from others' point of view. And again, it's not that one of these, when you take a look at any of these letters, I'm not saying the E or the I, the E is better than the I or vice versa, or the S is better than the N, or the T is better than the F. It's just types that we are. And it sort of becomes our sense of normal. But again, kind of a 50-50 split in the population on that. And then also pretty close to a 50-50 split is, are you a judging or perceiving person? Judging, you tend to have your life to be planned, stable, organized way. You can control, scheduled, very similar to this where you saw control back over here. Thought I saw it before. But you want to set goals very scheduled, whereas the P tends to be a little bit more spontaneous. You don't necessarily have to do everything the way that you've done it before, a little bit more go with the flow in these particular things. So you'll come up with a J or a P on that. So that should give you 4 letters, which means that your personality type should come in one of these 4, whether it's the protectors, which have the S and the J's, the creators, which are the S and the P's, the intellectuals, which have the N and the T's, or the visionaries, which have the N and the S. Now, if personality types were divided evenly, everybody should be 6.5% of the population. But you'll notice the ESTJs and the ESFJs, 13 and 12 respectively, 10 and 11% respectively over here, they're much more overtly represented. And then you have some that are incredibly underrepresented, such as the INTJs, INTPs, INFJs, and the INFPs. A little bit underrepresented there. If you're around the 6 to 7 to 8, that's a pretty even spiel of the population. Also, you'll notice the difference between the male and the female portion as well. Feel free to pause this if you want to take a look at your own particular one and see where it is. Now, speaking of your particular 4 letters, we're going to go through each of these 4-letter combinations. Feel free to fast forward to get past the other ones and get to your particular 4 as you so choose. Also, again, this PowerPoint is available online if you just want to take a look at that. So here we go. The first off, the S and the J's, ESTJs, ESFJs, ISTJs, ISFJs. This is about 40% of the population. Now, again, if this was proportional to the entire population, it should be 25%. But most people fall into the overseer, supporter, examiner, defender sort of a relationship. So if we take a look at the first one, the ESTJ, this is going to be 16% of the male population, 10% of the female, 13% of the population overall, which again, greater than the 6.5 that it should be. These are responsible, logical, follow the norms, hard workers. Efforts are carried out in a practical, structured manner. Chief Wiggum, if you want a Simpsons character, the president that you are most likely to be here would be Andrew Jackson. Darth Vader, supervisor, Dwight Schrute. Sorry about that, or maybe that's good for you. This right here is your DC character. This over here is your Marvel character that you are alike. This would be the Disney characters that you are most alike. These would be the animal that you are most alike. This would be the how you look at romance. This would be the Muppet. This would be the Hunger Games as we go forward. And then on the next one, you'll see here, this is your Harry Potter character, your Game of Thrones character, your Phineas and Ferb character, your Lord of the Rings character. Which Disney villain would you most be like? Which dessert would you most be like? Which person from Finding Nemo? Which person from Grey's Anatomy? Which little pony would you most be like? And if you were an instrument, what instrument would you be? And others that fall in as well. Now, again, this isn't based on true personality tests. This is based on people's perceptions of these characters that they see. It's not like Andrew Jackson and Lyndon Johnson and James Monroe did a personality test before Myers-Briggs were even around. So this is just sort of based on things like that. And that's why you'll see some people like Reagan will fall under 2 categories, whatever. But again, this is the ESTJ, the overseer, which is the majority, not the majority, but a greater proportion of the population. Now, if you became an ESFJ, you're someone who's a little bit more of the supporter. And again, 12% of the population, Jar Jar Binks, my apologies. This is 7% of men, 17% of women, social butterflies, sort of want to be around with everybody else, a little bit more of a deep thinker as opposed to the previous group, sensitive to criticism, don't really like it. Also guardians of birthdays, holidays, celebration, want to make sure that everybody else is taken care of on that, and some job choices that you see for people there. Now, if we go to the next group, which is the ISTJ, a little bit more introverted, but again, 8.5% of the population here. These are the responsible, loyal, hardworking people, acute sense of what is right and wrong, very clear in that, deeply for those closest to them as well. And then we come over here, the ISTJs are often called the inspectors, keen sense of, again, right or wrong, this is good, this is bad. There's not a lot of gray area in between those. So you got some Natalie Portman, you got some George Washington, Jeff Bezos, the Amazon king. Then if you go to the ISFJs, again, a little bit more female than male here, but still 7% of the population. So a good proportion of the population, but a definite discrimination between men and women. These are loyal, quiet, kind, very sensitive to other people's needs, very much the protector of others. Do not seek positions of authority, more of a follower there. ISFJs characterized above all by their desire to serve others. Relationships, give and take in relationships, deeply unsatisfying to them. They want a strong standard for themselves. So you've got Marlon, you've got Kate Middleton, you've got George H.W. Bush, and a little bit of Mother Teresa for you there. And you're also a bass guitar. Not sure why. Then you've got the next group of four, which are the creators. And again, 33% of the population. So you're talking about a little bit of an overrepresentation again. With 25 would have been proportional. This is 33% of the population. Your ESTJs are the persuaders. And again, you can sort of read through there and you kind of see these characters and how they're a little bit the same in their sort of roles. Your Gaston being like your Han Solo, being like your Teddy Roosevelt, and you can sort of being like your Bart Simpson. You can sort of see the general trends of these very similar to one another. And you also fall into the Donald Trump category over there, that extroverted sort of person, enthusiastic, excitable, the doers that fall into that. If we look at the ESFPs, again, extroverted personalities there, here in the now, enjoy excitement, highly social nature. So you got your Homer Simpson along with your Andy Bernard, along with your Billy Clinton and your Fozzie Bear. So these practical side, finish your work efficiently, pretty good problem solvers, though how Homer falls into that, I'm not sure. The entire world is a stage. And again, you look at your other people here, you'll see the agreement there on Bill Clinton. Leo DiCaprio falls into that as well. Nothing more than for life to be a continual party in which they play the role of the fun-loving host. And Dory falls into that as well. Then we go to our next group, which is the ISTJs, going back to the introverted group, adventurous and independent, like to figure out how things work, very practical, like to keep very busy, action oriented. And if you take a look over here and you've got, what was his name? Platypus. Perry? I think it was Perry. Thrive on action. Usually fearless in these sorts of ways. And you've got a little bit of Steve Jobs there, but also a little bit of Vladimir Putin as well, and my dog. Then you've got the ISFPs, which are the artists in the situation. Artistic, creative, loyal, sensitive, keen appreciation for beauty, but again, very introverted folks there as well. Live in a world of sensational possibilities. And again, you'll take a look at these characters and you'll see how they're pretty similar to one another. A Rihanna, very much like a Michael Jackson. It's kind of interesting. Next, when we're taking a look at the third group of folks, you've got your intellectuals. So these are the people with the N and the T's in their four names or four words. Now, again, the extrovert here being the chief, 4% of the population, a little bit more men than women. outspoken, don't hesitate to speak of their plans for improvement. You see all the sort of characteristics that go there. And again, pause on your particular one if you feel you want to read more. Good career matches for the extroverted executive that falls into those groups. And then we go to the next group, ENTP, which is the originator, logical, innovative, curious, very much looking for improvement everywhere, trying to understand complex things as well. How Jim Halbert and R2D2 are suddenly together on that. Ideal people, perceive abilities, cause them to see possibilities everywhere. In this, here they've got Barack Obama listed as an ENTP, but another one has him listed as something else, but also Downey Jr. and Da Vinci. Not bad company. Then you get to the INTJ, which is the strategist. The strategist. Strategist. 1.5% of the population. So again, you're talking about a very rare group, but 5 times more likely to be male versus female in this particular group, and you see that with a lot of characters here. Introspective, analytical, natural leadership ability. You've got Smithers, you've got Nixon, you've got Palpatine. You know, a very interesting sort of dynamic there. You see some others here as well. Some great career opportunities for INTJs. Independent individualist is a good way to sort of describe them. Then we get to the INTPs, which again, more likely to be male than female, 4 times more likely to be male versus female on this. The engineer, logical, individualistic, reserved, curious, focus on ideal theories and how they work there. So you've got Ferb, I think that one's Ferb, and the other one's Phineas. Been a while. But you see the different sort of characters that fall into that. And then we get to the last group, which is the smallest of all the groups, the visionaries, the mentor, advocate, confidant, and dreamer. The ENFJ, which this particular test here now has Obama, and under that, externally focused, introspective, positive, excellent people skills involved there. Apu, more likely to be male than female. And you take a look at some other characters over here with Bono. I didn't even know Bono had a last name. Great career matches there if you're an ENFJ and if you want to pause and read more. The ENFP, again, extroverted. You get into that Michael Scott as Ronald Reagan, and strangely, I can see that. Actively send their thoughts and ideas out into the world. Very positive, very fun-loving. You've got the genie from Aladdin over there with that. They also tend to be warm, enthusiastic people, typically very bright and full of potential and what the possibilities of things are going to be. Then you have the INFP. So now you're a little bit more introverted. And this is, again, a very rare population, only 2% of the population, 1.5% male, 2.5% female, introspective, private, creative, highly idealistic, highly creative and artistic, produce wonderful works of art, music, literature, kind of tends to be their jam, if you would. Your John Lennon's, your J.K. Rowling's, your William Shakespeare's. The idea is that they all fall underneath this. Just creating is sort of their lifeblood. And then finally, the last group you have is the INFJ, which is the rarest of personalities, only 1% of the population, 0.5% male, 1.5% female. These are the confidants. These are introspective, caring, gentle, complex people striving for peace, don't want to rock the boat too much. Very private, deeply committed to their own beliefs, even though they don't share them that much. Thomas Jefferson, probably our shyest of all presidents. Gentle, caring, complex, highly intuitive, individualistic, don't necessarily need groups. The rarest of all personality types, and you see others that sort of go in with that. Now, inevitably, whenever I do this personality test, students always ask, which one do you come up with? And I've taken multiple Myers-Briggs tests, and I've taken them. I always come up with the same answer, and it's this one, the INFJ, which again, we go back and it's 0.5% of the male population. This is where sometimes I get very frustrated because it's hard for me to understand other people. I want to please other people and I want people to get along, but it's also a little bit difficult for me because when I look at these more common personality types, it just their actions and their ideas and their thoughts, it's just it's hard sometimes for me to understand that. But you try, and you sort of fall within that. And when my wife and I actually went through and watched Grey's Anatomy, this guy right here, Shepard, I think his name was, my wife, when he would do particular actions, my wife would quite often go, "That's you," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's kind of a jerk." On occasion too. All right, so that takes us through, and again, you can pause wherever you want, get all the information that you want here, and then the last lecture that we're going to go to next is the social cognitive perspective of personality, and that should wrap us up.